A federal judge blocks President Trump's bid to end birthright citizenship. 31 workers pulled to safety after a tunnel collapsed in Los Angeles. And Amanda Anisimova makes history as the first U.S. woman in the Wimbledon final since Serena. And here's today's trivia question. What is the national mammal of the United States? I'll tell you at the end of the show. It's Friday, July 11th. This is the Flyover Podcast. Welcome to the Flyover Podcast, taking you above the noise for an unbiased, high-altitude view of today's headlines with daily coverage that's honest and refreshing. Let's cruise the news and land the facts. Good morning and welcome to the Flyover Podcast. I'm your weekday host, Ayla Brown. It is Friday. Thank you for spending the week with me. We once again have a very packed show, so let's get right into it and take off with the biggest headlines of the day. Let's start with a major shakeup on immigration policy. A federal judge in New Hampshire has just blocked President Trump's effort to end birthright citizenship. That policy was set to take effect on July 27th and would have denied U.S. citizenship to babies born on American soil unless at least one parent is a citizen or legal permanent resident. Judge Joseph LaPlante, a George W. Bush appointee, called it unconstitutional and sided with a class action suit brought by the ACLU on behalf of affected newborns. He even managed to work around a recent Supreme Court ruling that limits nationwide injunctions by certifying the case as a class action. This ruling points back to the 14th Amendment and a key 1898 Supreme Court decision affirming birthright citizenship. The White House says it'll appeal and claims the policy was meant to, quote, protect the meaning of American citizenship. But immigrant advocates in 22 states say the move was flat out illegal. Now to Los Angeles, where 31 workers just had an unbelievably close call. Late Wednesday night, crews rescued all 31 workers who'd been trapped after a partial tunnel collapse under the Wilmington industrial area, about 6 miles underground. They were working on a $700 million wastewater project using a massive tunnel boring machine when the ground gave way. The workers had to climb over 12 feet of debris to reach safety. Thankfully, no one was seriously hurt. Officials say it looks like a geological issue known as squeezing ground caused the collapse, but they're still investigating. Mayor Karen Bass called it a victory, especially given how badly this could have gone. By the way, video of the rescue shared by the LA Times shows firefighters helping the workers out. Real-life heroes in action. And American tennis fans, this one's for you. Amanda Anisimova is headed to the Wimbledon final. The 23-year-old New Jersey native pulled off a huge upset Thursday, beating world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka in a gritty 3-set match. She's the first American woman to reach the Wimbledon final since Serena Williams in 2019. So that is a big deal. Anisimova hit 38 winners, including a jaw-dropping cross-court forehand to seal the match. Just a year ago, she was ranked outside the top 180 and had stepped away from tennis due to mental health struggles. Now she's back stronger than ever and even studying to become a surgeon after tennis. Next up, she faces Poland, Iga Świątek, the world number 2 in Saturday's championship. So yes, make sure you have your TV set because this one could be historic. In politics, Secretary of State Marco Rubio met with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov in Malaysia on Thursday. The two spoke for nearly an hour, and Rubio called it a productive conversation, saying they shared some, quote, new and different ideas for ending the war in Ukraine. He didn't go into detail, but said he'll bring the concepts back to President Trump. It's one of the highest-level U.S.-Russia meetings in recent months. Almost a year after the July 13th assassination attempt on President Trump at a rally in Pennsylvania, the Secret Service has suspended 6 agents without pay. An internal review found they failed to follow several key protocols ahead of the event, and coordination with local police was lacking. The agents now face up to 42 days of unpaid leave and restrictions on future assignments. In Texas, Governor Greg Abbott has called a special legislative session starting July 21st to redraw the state's congressional map. This follows legal challenges that say the current map underrepresents minority voters in urban areas. Abbott also cited the state's deadly 4th of July floods. As of now, 120 people are confirmed dead, a reason to fast-track redistricting, saying it could improve emergency response at the local level. Democrats, who currently hold 13 of Texas's 38 House seats, say the move could cost them up to 3 competitive districts. And finally, a Senate committee has advanced a measure to block the Trump administration from relocating the FBI's new headquarters to downtown D.C. The original site in Greenbelt, Maryland, had already cleared years of planning and approvals. Maryland lawmakers are pushing to keep it there, and now the full Senate will take up the issue. More on that in the show notes below. We're brought to you by Native Path Hydrate. It's summertime, it is really hot outside, and you're going to want to replenish all the energy that you've lost throughout the day. So get yourself some Native Path Hydrate. Other drink mixes are loaded with sugar or salt, but Native Path Hydrate is made with all 9 essential amino acids, plus BCAAs for muscle recovery, and only 230 milligrams of sodium, which is actually perfect for everyday use. I've even gotten my husband to start using Native Path because it's completely natural, sugar-free, and just 5 calories per serving. And with their 365-day money-back guarantee, there's no risk. Try it for yourself at nativehydrate.com/flyover. That's nativehydrate.com/flyover. Or click the link in the description below for all of the info. It's time for today's podcast extra, where we spotlight some stories just for our flyover listeners that you won't find in the email edition. So let's start with a rare rebuke from within the Democratic ranks. Former Secretary of State John Kerry told the BBC this week that Democrats, in his words, quote, blew it on immigration during the Biden years. He said the party failed to clearly support border enforcement, allowing the U.S.-Mexico border to fall under siege, and handling political momentum to now President Donald Trump. Kerry even went so far to say Trump was, quote, right on border security, marking a major shift from someone who once ran as the Democratic presidential nominee himself. His comments come as immigration remains a top polling issue heading into the 2026 midterms. Over in New York, the NYPD is facing backlash after a major internal shakeup. At least 30 officers and cadets have been forced to resign after an internal review found they were hired despite failing key mental health screenings and background checks. These are violations of state hiring laws. The recruits that were hired between 2023 and 2024 were given 24 hours to resign or face termination. Investigators are now zeroing in on former Inspector Terrell Anderson, who's under departmental investigation for bypassing these protocols. The police union says the issue stems from systemic flaws, not the officers themselves, and they're calling the mass resignations unfair. And finally, a little snack talk for the workplace crowd. Nutritionists say that if you hit an afternoon slump at work, your best bet is not an energy drink or a candy bar. Instead, this is what they suggest: pair proteins with complex carbs. For example, Greek yogurt and berries, or hummus and veggies for longer-lasting energy. Pre-packing snacks and watching your portion sizes can also help too. And don't worry, the occasional treat is totally fine. As one dietitian put it, if you want the chip, have the stinking chip. Just don't let it become the norm. I used to drive my coworkers crazy by eating hard-boiled eggs with fruit when I was hungry. They hated me for it, but I swear it was the perfect snack. And if you want to try it, you can actually blame me if you do this at work. I don't mind. That's your podcast extra roundup. Coming up, one of the Carolinas has just been rated the best state for business. But is it South Carolina or North Carolina? The answer is right around the corner. In finance, some big movement in the breakfast aisle. Ferrero is making a splash because the Italian candy giant known for Nutella is acquiring WK Kellogg, the U.S. cereal company behind brands like Fruit Loops and Frosted Flakes. The deal's worth $3.1 billion, and WK Kellogg shares surged 30% on the news. Ferrero is continuing its expansion into the U.S. market, and this deal adds some serious cereal power to its portfolio. And if you're doing business, North Carolina might be the place to be. According to CNBC's annual rankings, North Carolina is the top state for business in 2025. The Tar Heel state scored high in categories like workforce quality, economic strength, and infrastructure, beating out Texas and Florida. It's the third time in 4 years North Carolina has taken that top spot. But you can see the entire list of rankings in the show notes below. Did your state make the list? And a new poll highlights a growing concern for families: child care costs. Roughly 75% of American adults now say child care is a major problem. But while there's wide agreement that something needs to change, there's little consensus on how. The issue cuts across political lines and continues to be a major economic pressure point for working parents nationwide. On a personal note, I have so many friends who have problems with childcare. They can't find anyone to watch their kids. Even someone recently told me that they haven't been on a date with their husband in 2 years because they can't find someone to watch their baby. And then don't get me started on the cost of daycare, school, and everything else. Now, I don't have a solution either, but I will say that I empathize with the frustration. Here's how the market did yesterday. The Dow closed up 0.43%, the S&P 500 rose 0.27%, and the Nasdaq inched up 0.09%. Bitcoin climbed more than 2%, trading around $113,500, while gold also moved higher to $3,333 an ounce. The big mover of the day was MP Materials. Shares of the rare earth mining company soared more than 50% after the Pentagon announced it's becoming the firm's largest shareholder. The move is aimed at ramping up U.S. production of rare earth magnets, key components in everything from fighter jets to submarines. In sports, let's start at Wimbledon with a huge upset on the women's side. American tennis star Amanda Anisimova pulled off one of the biggest wins of her career, defeating world number 1 Arina Sabalenka. We've talked about this before, and if you're wondering how you can watch her, I promise the entire tournament will be on this weekend. Go USA! Over to the NBA, Devin Booker just set a new league record. The Phoenix Suns guard has signed a 2-year, $145 million extension, making him the highest-paid player on a per-year basis in NBA history. If you're not a math person like me, that's an average of over $72 million per season. He's 27 years old, and he's been a franchise cornerstone in Phoenix and will now stay locked in through at least the 2028 season. And finally, big numbers off the field in Major League Baseball. Atlanta's bracing for a big economic boost this weekend as it hosts MLB's All-Star festivities. City officials estimate that the events could generate at least $50 million in revenue, thanks to packed hotels, restaurants, and fan zones. It's the first time the city is hosting since the year 2000, and local businesses say they are ready for the rush. In science and technology, let's start with a major archaeological discovery out of Central America. A husband and wife team from Texas has uncovered the tomb of Takeoff, believed to be the first ruler of the ancient Maya city of Caracol in present-day Belize. The burial site dates back to around AD 350 and includes stunning relics like pottery, a jadeite death mask, and a ceremonial jewelry collection. Caracol was one of the most powerful Mayan cities, and this find could reshape what we know about early dynasties in the region. At NASA, there's been a sudden change in leadership. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy was tapped on Wednesday to serve as NASA's interim administrator. He's stepping in after President Trump withdrew his original nominee, reportedly due to Senate opposition. Duffy will juggle both roles for now as NASA gears up for several key missions, including more Artemis moon program milestones later this year. And in Cyprus, scientists finally found a creature they've been chasing for decades. A rare tailless whip scorpion was spotted clinging to a garden wall, confirming its presence on the island for the first time. Despite its intimidating appearance, the tailless whip scorpion is harmless to humans and plays an important role in insect control. Researchers say the discovery helps fill a long-standing gap in Cyprus's biodiversity records. I don't know. I don't want to see one, I'll tell you that. Anything scorpion-related, no, thank you. But coming up, the best whiskey and bourbon have been named, and it came from Virginia. More info on that in just a couple minutes. Here are some stories we couldn't leave out of the podcast. Let's start with a music legend hitting the road. Paul McCartney just announced 19 new U.S. tour dates as part of his Got Back tour. The run kicks off September 29th in Palm Desert, California, with stops in Las Vegas, Atlanta, Chicago, Minneapolis, among many others. The announcement comes after a string of sold-out international shows earlier this year. And yes, of course, fans can expect a mix of Beatles classics and solo favorites. Will he be coming to a city near you? Find out in the link in the show notes below. In Paris, fashion history just broke the bank. The very first Hermès Birkin bag, designed in 1984 for actress Jane Birkin herself, just sold at auction for a record-breaking $10 million. The tan leather tote, complete with custom hardware, smashed previous luxury handbag records and is now officially the most expensive purse ever sold. Meanwhile, in India, a swarm of bees delayed a flight. Passengers in Kolkata were grounded for over an hour after bees completely covered the plane's cargo door. Firefighters were called in to hose them off, and luckily no one was hurt or stung. This is actually the second time bees have caused delays at airports this year. Yuck. And finally, raise a glass to the state of Virginia, because Virginia-made bourbon has taken the top honors at the 2025 International Whiskey Competition, winning both Best Bourbon and Best American Whiskey. Judges praised its rich, oaky flavors with notes of caramel and spice. So, what was the winner? A. Smith Bowman Cask Strength Batch Number 4. That's a tongue twister, so I'll say it again. A. Smith Bowman Cask Strength Batch Number 4. It earned a score of 97.01, the second highest overall. So time to upgrade your home bar, but it does cost about $100 a bottle. I'm just warning you. Here's yesterday's poll question and the results. Were you the kind of kid who... Well, we were talking about Barbie yesterday, so 40% of you said, who's Barbie? 20% of you actually built entire Barbie plot lines. 16% of you only liked her car, 14% gave Barbie extreme makeovers, and 10% kept Barbie pristine in her box. I hope you've made a lot of money by reselling the ones in the box. But here's today's poll question for today. We're talking about the Wimbledon finals, so will you watch the Wimbledon finals? Either yep, nope, just the highlights, only if someone makes me, or What is Wimbledon? I'm going to be honest with you, I probably will not watch it. I have never really been into tennis, but I promise you, I pinky promise, that on Monday morning, I will give you a Wimbledon update. The tournament goes through Sunday, and obviously I want USA to come out on top. We have Americans competing in men's and women's singles, as well as 2 in the women's doubles. So go USA. Speaking of USA, what is the national mammal of the U.S.? That's today's trivia question. The answer? The American bison is the national mammal of the U.S., officially named in 2016. Like the bald eagle, it's a symbol of strength and resilience. And it was once nearly extinct, but its comeback is one of the greatest conservation wins in U.S. history. Thank you for spending part of your day with me here on the Flyover Podcast. Celebrate because you have made it another work week. Now that you've finished watching or listening to the headlines here, head on over to today's Feel Good Flyover with Amy Hess. She'll be with you the rest of the weekend, and I will see you bright and early on Monday morning. Thanks for flying with us.